starts now.
I don't want us to be the city that has next George Floyd. I don't want us to be the next Breonna Taylor. I don't want to be the next city.
Tonight, the future of Columbia's Citizen Police Review Board is up in the air. The board and the Columbia City Council are at odds over how to proceed during the board's hiatus. Good evening, everyone. I'm Emily Spain. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. KMU's Rachel Henderson talked to both council and board members about the future and what it could hold. She joins us now live at City Hall about what this means for the whole community. Rachel.
Emily, it's no secret that the future of the Citizens Police Review Board is uncertain, especially here at City Hall. What is clear is that it's up to the council to determine how the board proceeds, but that's not easy when the council isn't even sure what that looks like.
I don't know what the answer is, but I know that we are in a really bad place.
It's an ongoing discussion over a long-standing issue.
And what happened is a lot of people were complaining about excessive force by the police department, and it was very widespread.
After working with various other people to help establish the board back in 2009, David Tyson Smith says the board is far from how he imagined it.
I've had concerns that the board may not be living up to its purpose. One of the problems is you have so much turnover on the board, and people get on the board and they sometimes don't know why they're there.
According to the board's ordinance,
the purpose is for accountability and to hold the police accountable.
In reality, the board does this by hearing appeals from citizens, which has no longer been possible after the council paused the board's regular meetings in August.
We aren't accomplishing anything.
That's why December Harmon gave a public comment last night proposing a new model for the board that did not solely look at appeals.
My goal was to actually have us do what the purpose asked us to do. And in setting it up as an appeals board, which, to be very clear, it's not necessarily the purpose of the board.
She spent the past few months putting together research for an investigative model that she hopes council can use to inform its decision-making.
I want to give council everything that they need and everything that all the information. They always say they need more data. Give all that to them in a report and say, this is what we need the new ordinance to look like.
But with 3 of the board's 9 seats currently open, the council is concerned about getting ahead of itself.
My concern, though, is that if we get to our second meeting in October and we don't make appointments, if they do get an appeal, they do not have a quorum by which to review the appeal.
I've spoken to past CPRB members, and they said that they resigned. They saw that the system was broken. They saw that they were wasting their time. But I'm here to actually make a change. I don't want us to be the city that has next George Floyd. I don't want us to be the next Breonna Taylor. I don't want to be the next city.
Ultimately, it's up to the council to decide what happens next. After last night's meeting, they decided they wanted to leave the applications open until mid-October. In the meantime, they're planning on assembling a task force to help put the board back together. Reporting live in Columbia, Rachel Henderson, KMU 8 News.
Columbia Public Schools' grading scale is changing. After years of research, teachers will move away from the typical A through F grading scale and implement a new method called Standards Referenced Grading, or SRG. The district held its first informational meeting today to explain the change to parents. And KMU8's Blake Phillips was at that meeting, and you're here to walk us through this new scale, Blake.
Well, Emily, this grading scale seems confusing on the surface, but is actually supposed to make it easier for students to succeed. Taking a closer look at the new scale, you will see the grades are broken down into 4 points. Here are some key takeaways. Getting a 4 means that students show that their knowledge of the learning goal exceeds expectations. A 3 means that students consistently show they understand every aspect of the learning goals. A 2 means they show mastery of some but not all skills. And a 1 means they do not show that they grasp the topic. One student who has earned grades from the SRG scale says they find the scale to be more forgiving.
I think the biggest change I've seen is in the grading, because they've changed so you can take retakes now and you have more chances to improve your grade. Even if you don't do well on a test, you can still get a good grade in the class.
Now, CPS will have 2 more informational meetings for parents, and details for those can be found on KOMU.com.
So, Blake, at what point can parents expect to see some of these changes go into effect for their kids?
Well, Emily, it's not going to happen overnight. Yeah, CPS says they are starting to implement it this year at the middle school level, but not all grades will use it for another 6 years or so.
And so why are they starting at the middle school level and not earlier?
Yeah, so the scale is supposed to help kids prepare for college. But if they were to just start with them right away, kids might struggle. The plan is for students to learn with the program at a lower level, so by the time they get to high school, the scale is nothing new to them.
All right, Blake Phillips in the studio for us tonight. Thanks so much. Lawmakers are moving forward with legislation to lower income taxes, but it's not as low as what the governor proposed. The Senate could vote tomorrow to change the state's income tax rate. The Senate voted to perfect a bill today that would move the income tax rate from 5.3% to 4.95% next year. The bill is an amendment to one proposed by Governor Parson, which brought the income tax rate down to 4.8%. Republican Senators Lincoln Hough and Andrew Koenig proposed the two separate amendments that formed the final bill. If Missouri state revenue continues at a constant rate after 2023, the state income tax rate would eventually fall to 4.5%. Senator Koenig says this was a fair agreement on Parson's original plan.
I think this is a very reasoned approach to this. We're not cutting too fastly, I don't believe so. Currently this year revenues are up by several $100 million just in the first couple months. So I think ultimately we would likely get to that 4.8 that the governor had in his call.
While most senators seem to be on board with this compromise, one Democratic senator says she doesn't think there should be any tax cuts at all in this session. She says the money budgeted for the tax cuts isn't forever.
A lot of the money that we have in our budget and in our surplus is really one-time money as a result of crises that have occurred. So we're not going to keep being funded by the federal government in the way that we have been that got us into the place where we have a surplus budget.
The Senate also perfected a tax credit bill for farmers. That bill would give tax credits to farmers for 6 years. It will move to a vote tomorrow. Today is National Voter Registration Day, and groups across the state used all kinds of different methods to register new voters before Election Day on November 8th. One Rally to Action event was held outside the Jefferson City NAACP office today. That rally allowed those interested to talk about why it's important for them to vote and ask questions about getting registered. One member of the NAACP says he looks forward to registering a number of people and sharing voter education information.
We want to make sure that each person who's entitled to vote gets to vote. In Missouri, that means if you're a Missouri resident that you get to vote. You shouldn't have artificial limitations on that prospect.
One executive committee member for the Jefferson City NAACP says today was a way for anyone to come together and encourage others to vote.
If you want to see a change, or if you want your voice to be heard, voting is one really big way for your voice to be heard and for you to make a change.
If you have questions or problems voting, head over to our website, KOMU.com, for some helpful resources. Registration groups also set up in Columbia throughout MU's campus with a cuddly incentive to sign up for a vote. Take a look here. When this voter registration group set up on the quad today, they brought 4 dogs to draw potential voters in. The group allowed anybody who finished registering to vote to then pet these pups. The group's director of programming says the dogs actually brought a lot more people in.
We've had really great engagement. This has definitely been better turnout than I've had in years previous. So it's safe to say that the puppies are working.
The deadline to register to vote is October 12th, and absentee voting begins next Tuesday. Well, take a look here at this video out of Marys County. It's the scene of a deadly home explosion. The county sheriff's office says it's investigating the explosion that happened overnight, and you can see the debris from the house just scattered all over the property. Almost looks like a tornado came through there. First responders are unsure if the homeowners were there at the time of the blast. They're also trying to find out if the man killed in it was the owner, but they do think they have an idea of what may have caused the explosion. They're looking at the propane tank. Matt.
We tied a record today, got to 98 degrees, tying a record from 129 years ago, 1893. So a significantly old record there. And we've only gotten to 98 degrees or higher 3 times this late in the year or later, and 1893 was one of those times. 2022 was one of the others, so a very rare event for us. Our low temperature near 70 degrees was pretty close to breaking a record for the warmest low, but we got just low enough that it wasn't an issue. Temperature is cooling down now, upper 70s to near 80. Hard to believe that the big cool down is coming. In fact, we're not going to even think about 80s until the weekend gets here. 73 to kick off the day tomorrow, getting to the 90s in the afternoon, but that's on average. Some of us will get to the upper 90s, others will get much colder. Then as we head into the evening, we'll cool quickly, and we'll talk about that cool down coming up.
Matt, with that cold front moving in, how much can I commit to my fall wardrobe? Is it time for my sweaters and flannels?
Well, you'll certainly want the sweaters and flannels on Thursday, even Friday, but you might want to keep a pair of shorts out too. We're going to talk about that coming up in just a few minutes.
Okay, thanks, Matt. Tonight we're learning more about a lawsuit filed by migrants who were sent to Martha's Vineyard by Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. The suit says Venezuelan migrants were put on planes to Massachusetts under false pretenses. DeSantis filled multiple charter planes with Venezuelan migrants under the belief they were flying to Boston or D.C. The plane's migrants were dropped off at Martha's Vineyards, though, instead, with no food, no water, or shelter. Senate Minority Leader Mitch McConnell applauded the move by DeSantis, claiming he helped them secure transportation to the sanctuary destination.
So these well-to-do blue enclaves are finally witnessing the smallest fraction of the challenges that open borders have forced on working-class communities all across our country.
The lawsuit claims no one in Martha's Vineyard was made aware the plane was coming. Tonight we have an update about Hurricane Fiona after making landfall again earlier today. The storm is now battering Turks and Caicos with winds up to 110 miles per hour. It has already devastated Puerto Rico and the Dominican Republic. NBC's Dan Shinneman is breaking down what we know so far.
Hurricane Fiona hitting Turks and Caicos with the force of a Category 3 storm. Forecasters warn up to 8 inches of rain could soak the islands. Fiona has already damaged parts of the Caribbean. The storm reached hurricane strength before slamming into Puerto Rico Sunday. 2 feet of rain fell on the U.S. territory, and the storm's winds knocked out the power supply. This man said, "It was too much. I didn't expect this. A lot of people lost everything." One small town is cut off from the rest of the island. Major roads are blocked by debris.
Still no water and no power and no internet. We don't have a way of getting information because we don't have TV, radio, internet. Nothing works.
The storm smashed into the Dominican Republic on Monday. Heavy rains overwhelmed rivers. One man looked at what was left of his home and said, "It is a disaster. We lost everything here, and everything got wet." Fiona is still moving and gaining strength. It's expected to be a Category 4 storm by Friday, when it may hit Bermuda. Dan Shinneman, NBC News.
Matt, we just saw there what that storm did to Puerto Rico. So what other countries are in its path? You've been tracking this storm.
Yeah, Emily, and got a note. He said 2 feet of rain. Some areas saw as much as 30 inches of rain. Incredible amounts.
Spotify is adding a new feature to its platform. Users will now be able to buy and then listen to more than 300,000 audiobook titles. The company's vice president said Spotify is introducing audiobooks to an audience of people who may never have tried them otherwise. Users will have to exit the app through a link to actually purchase the audiobook. Ford says it's struggling with supply chain issues and cannot finish making up to 45,000 pickups and SUVs. The company also noted shortages and rising prices of supplies will cost an extra $1 billion this quarter. But Ford said it should still hit its full-year earning targets. They plan to shift the sales revenue it will get from the nearly completed vehicles into the fourth quarter. Coming up, the Mizzou football team is gearing up for its first SEC game of the year. We'll talk keys to victory next in sports.
Now from the Ford Sports Desk, KOMU 8 Sports. You know, we're only 3 games into this season, but Mizzou's 2023 football schedule is already out. The Tigers' first 3 games next year will all be at home in the non-conference, including a rematch with K-State. Their home SEC opponents are LSU, South Carolina, Tennessee, and Florida. You can check out the entire schedule right now at KOMU.com. Starting quarterback Brady Cook's mobility has been an asset early in this season. Cook is Mizzou's leading rusher, in fact, through those first 3 games, but all those carries bring plenty of hits. Head coach Eli Drinkwitz and quarterback coach Bush Hamden are counseling Cook on how to better protect himself.
Gene Chizik used to talk about there's tough and dumb tough, all right? And we don't need to be dumb tough, we need to be tough. And so I think that's just the conversation with Brady is we need you to display toughness, especially at the quarterback position. We never want to take away his competitive toughness, but let's not be dumb tough.
Dumb tough, write that one down. Help protecting Cook from the offensive line could be on the way. Graduate O-lineman Hiron White practiced today. He has been out for Mizzou's first 3 games of the season due to injury. The injury report for the Auburn game should come out on Thursday evening. According to multiple reports today, Auburn starting quarterback TJ Finley will miss Saturday's game with an injured shoulder. He suffered the injury in last week's 41-12 loss to Penn State.
It's about us. I think, you know, the young man, Zach Calzada, from Texas A&M transfer, might fill in more to that role. But we've been preparing for both guys. Both guys have played in all the games leading up to our game. So I don't think it's going to change our prep as far as what we have to prepare for.
Southern Boone runner Connor Burns is headed to the top college track and field program in America, committing to Oregon today. Burns is the son of former Mizzou cross-country coach Mark Burns. At Oregon, Connor's coach will be Jerry Schumacher, who also coaches former Mizzou 6-time national champion Carissa Schweitzer professionally. Crosstown soccer matchup tonight, Hickman and Rockbridge, and this was a good one. Scoreless through the first half, but here comes Drew Schlemmy putting one in the back of the net just 6 minutes into the second half. Rockbridge up 1-0, and then here's Schlemmy again with a rocket. 2-0 Bruins. Now a Rockbridge handball in the box gave Hickman a penalty kick, and Leaf Kammer buries it to make it 2-1, but Rockbridge wins 4-1. Jefferson City hosting Hickman for some conference softball rivalry night for the Cupes. Third inning, Hickman down 2-1. Adlin Baker with the strikeout to keep it a 1-run game, but Jeff City exploded from there in the 7th inning, starting with Allison Carwile, a bases-loaded RBI to drive in 2. Jays up 4-1, and later, bases loaded again, and this time it's Elliott O'Donnell driving in 2 more, and the Jays win it 7-2. The Cards' magic number to clinch the division title sat at 7 as they open a West Coast road trip this week, starting with a 3-game series in San Diego. Game 1 with the Padres tonight. Adam Wainwright on the mound for the Cardinals got into some trouble early, and Jake Cronenworth is going to drop one into left field to drive in a pair, and that gave the Padres a quick 2-0 lead. They would add a solo homer from Ha-Seong Kim later on, and right now in the 6th, the Padres lead by a score of 4-0. Royals opening a series with Minnesota tonight. They fell behind 3-0 early, but a pair of home runs, capped off by this solo shot from Hunter Dozier, would tie the game. And Salvador Perez broke the tie in the 7th inning with an RBI double, and the Royals hang on to win this one 5-4. Finally, Columbia College Volleyball looking for their 6th consecutive win, hosting Hannibal LaGrange. First set, it's the former Battle Spartan Raven Buckley with the ace. Cougars won the first set 25-16. Second set, CC's Sude Gundangan with the kill, and that would tie the set. And later in the second, Danielle Pryor teams up with Gundan for the block, and the Cougars sweep the Trojans 3-0. And that's sports.
Temperatures coming tomorrow, middle to upper 90s down near the lake along the I-70 corridor. We're nearing that 90-degree mark. Upper 80s for areas along and north of Highway 24. Cooler air filtering in for Thursday. In fact, on Thursday, we're going to only see high temperatures making it to the upper 60s. So a big change coming our way that we are going to be keeping an eye on. 68 to 66 Thursday, Friday. I've added rain to the forecast on Friday, which means, Ben, you might want to pack not only a jacket, but a rain jacket for Friday Night Fever on Friday.
I think I want to see you in a poncho.
No, never a poncho. There's a reason why we pack the tent every single time, and I can't wait to use it on Friday.
Oh, I remember that game last year. It was just pouring rain. It was
fond memories.
Very cold.
Smart move.